if I were to come back, I would only be competing if I was getting paid.
What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So I'm sure many of you guys have heard that interview of Greene to Dave Palumbo where he said that he's gonna consider doing the Masters Olympia if he is financially compensated, if he is paid to put his name out there. Now he did not put out any amount, but he said he is willing to sit down with the higher-ups of the IFBB Pro League and work something out, work out a deal. So how many of you guys actually believe that Greene is actually gonna compete even if IFBB agrees to his terms? Will he be willing to step on the stage and compete against a guy like Brandon Curry, who just placed fourth at this past Arnold, and by the way whom Greene mocked after Brandon won the Olympia back in 2019? And secondly, there was a segment in the Cuddler cast where the legend and the 7 times Miss Olympia Phil Heath and his biggest rival Greene were discussed, and Phil Heath actually defended him that if Greene feels like he has the worth that the higher-ups of the IFBB are gonna pay him just to compete, just to step on the stage for the fans, then the fans should also not criticize this action of Greene.
I don't see why the fans should be so upset. And here's the other thing. I just got to say it. Fans got to stop this nonsense because Greene is one of the best bodybuilders to ever do it. He's an Arnold Classic champion. No, he didn't win the Olympia, but he is a champion, and he is worthy of being paid to go compete if someone's willing to pay him, okay?
Now, as much as I like Phil Heath, I have got to say he kind of comprehended the whole situation a bit wrong here. All those negative comments that Greene has been receiving in almost all the social media platforms, all the posts made on his comeback, they aren't because he wants to get paid to do that. The fans kind of feel betrayed over Greene's non-stop actions over the years. They kept on giving false hopes to all the fans and to all the bodybuilding community that he's gonna make a comeback, and that too literally every year after 2017, and that never translated into reality. Even when the IFBB gave him a special invite a few years back, he turned that down as well. So there is no denying the fact that Greene was a great bodybuilder and he has a great legacy. He is one of the best to ever step on that Miss Olympia stage.
His legacy, he has one. He has one.
He's a huge fan base.
Of course. So,
and who knows what his ceiling could have been had he not stepped away, or I'm gonna say ran away from the fight. And the thing is, you can sugarcoat it all you want, but the fact of the matter is, he ran away from the fight when he was in his prime. Maybe if he kept on competing, he would have been Miss Olympia eventually, and that too multiple times. But now at the age of 50, the chances of his comeback, they are very little. Or I'm gonna go as far as saying this, they are literally zero. So do you guys think at this stage of his career, of Kai's career, the IFBB will be willing to pay him something just to show up at the Masters Olympia this year? So Hostile just dropped some Sherpa-lined zip-up hoodies and forged hooded jackets. So do check him out and use the code FAZI10 to get 10% extra discount. Next up, we have an update from Wesley Wazers, who confirmed that he's doing Detroit Pro in 12 days time, and regardless of the outcome, he's gonna take a very long break, which means no Olympia this year for Wesley Wazers. So the legs, in his most recent update, they actually look way better. But we know the lights and the specific angles, they can paint a totally different picture compared to what we see on the stage. So this upcoming Detroit Pro, that is gonna be like a litmus test for a guy like Wesley Wazers, whether his current physique, that is good enough to challenge for that Olympia top 6, because he just cannot afford to get beat by a guy like Matt Bergo 2 times in a row in just a matter of a few weeks. So ever since Classic Physique division was created, I do not remember a single athlete who lost all his hype as quickly as Wesley did. Just keep in mind, this is the same guy who we all thought is gonna challenge Chris Bumstead at the Olympia last year for the Olympia title. And Wesley is of the opinion that both the Olympia peak as well as the peak for this past Arnold, that just went horribly for him. And that was the major reason for him placing so low at both these past big shows. Now I kind of have a disagreement here. We know at this point, he needs to have more quads, to have a more balanced physique, top to bottom. At least that is very clear from the feedback that was given to him by the judges at both the Arnold and the Olympia, and also at the Arnold last year when he won. Now here is the disagreement. Did he win the Arnold because all the other guys like Ramon and Urs Kalashinsky. They were off last year. Yes, both Ramon and Urs, they were off. But Wesley had more of a wow factor to his physique at the Arnold last year that he did not get to show in his last two showings. So whether he takes 1 year off or longer, it's gonna be a tough road to make improvements because he has already maxed out. And there is just no more room for him to get bigger, to grow, especially for classic physique. So for this upcoming Detroit Pro, who do you guys have winning? Wesley or Matt Gregor? So here we have another confirmation by Blessing Afutibu. So he hasn't confirmed his attendance for any of these upcoming shows yet. And that includes the Pittsburgh Pro and also the New York Pro, which are both scheduled in 8 and 9 weeks time. Now kind of fair assessment by Blessing. He wants to get in shape before announcing the show, and from his most recent physique update, it is kind of clear that Blessing isn't gonna be stage ready in 8 weeks time. It kind of seems like at this point, he's holding more water in his legs, which by the way can also be a part of their game plan for this upcoming season. So Blessing is one of those guys who's prone to losing the volume on his legs, and they're the first one to go when he diets down, especially in the final phase of the prep. So Stefan, his coach, he might be working on this method to keep his legs big and full as a house for as long as they can before they suck down really hard. Now Blessing is very confident that this package that is working to bring in this season, that is gonna be good enough to get him his third professional win as well as his second Olympia qualification. And that is a very realistic goal. I'm gonna say thank God he matured enough, especially in the past couple of years to know his limits. Because he was calling out a guy like the mutant, Nick Walker, before his Olympia debut back in 2022. And he was last place in that show, while Nick placed third in that same show. Now it is all gonna come down to how his legs, they compare to his upper body. Because we all know his upper body is gonna compare extremely well against even the top guys. He's very round, very bubbly, very tweety, and he has good aesthetics as well. So any show after Cali Pro, that is gonna be a good pick for Blessing Avudibu in my opinion. Next up, we have an update from Steve Kuglo. So he hasn't made the announcement that he's retired. But considering that Kuglo competed the last time back in 2022 at Texas Pro, I'm gonna make the assumption that he's now retired from professional bodybuilding. And that assumption is also based on the current size of Steve Kuglo. Now he's still very muscular, but not even close to what he looked like when he was actively competing, when he was in his prime. So even at his last show, which was Texas Pro, the man looked so huge. And those comparisons of him with Andrew Jack and Quentin Beastwood, that just goes to show us how huge this guy was. But that also goes to show us that Andrew Jack is a guy who was destined to be great. Now Steve's training, that has been different in the recent past. After years and years of pushing very hard and pushing a lot of weights in the gym, solely for the sake of hypertrophy, trying to get as big as humanly possible, Steve has now been more focused on improving his overall mobility. Now Steve had a very long career, and at his best, he was top 6 at the Olympia and top 3 at the Arnold, and he was one of the biggest guys on the stage. So during his last few shows, he got as peeled as he could have been, but he kind of lacked the separation in his quads, and he never had great arms to begin with. And both of these were genetic issues, and they were the major factors that did not allow him to stand out, especially in the bigger lineups. Next up, we have an update from Vlad, who went through 2 surgeries recently. So he was having unbearable pain in his body, which was hindering him from training the way he's supposed to win the shows and be on the Olympia stage again. So this guy was labeled as someone who only looked great on Instagram, but the way he showed up to battle last year at Chicago Pro and gave Muhammad Fadal a very serious one for his money, he earned everyone's respect. Not only Vlad was in a phenomenal condition, especially for that particular show, but his overall symmetry, that was also at his all-time best, because he was able to maintain a lot of that size on his quads, and that is why his waist wasn't looking as big as it used to in the past. Now in this era of men's open bodybuilding, Vlad is probably one of the most freaky bodybuilders, and this is yet another example of an IB pro who kind of ruined his chances by ruining his midsection while trying to grow too fast in the beginning of his career. Now there are pictures of him when he was an amateur, where he had a small waistline. So last year Vlad recovered from a full tricep tear, and he was back on the stage in just a few months. displaying his all-time best. So expect an even better comeback this time around, as this guy is a very dedicated individual. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.